Hey, Brian. Hey, Jamal. How are you guys doing?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Pretty good. Awesome. So I heard the news, guys. You guys already have won a few deals in the past few months, right?
Yeah, we do. Jamal, do you want to share the details on those?
Yeah. So we've got a 1 acre land deal up in Saudi Daisy. That was off of a follow-up with a seller. Initially went out, we couldn't agree on price, so went back, gave him a couple of weeks to think about it, called him, and he finally accepted my offer. The next property was in Jasper. It's about 45 minutes outside of Chattanooga. Built a good rapport with him and got it under contract, and we actually have already closed on that property to start rehabbing and flipping. The next property after that was up in Cleveland, which is about 20 to 30 minutes, depending on how fast you can drive. Got that one under contract. I already have a buyer for that, just waiting to close. And then the last one that we've been dealing with, it's a the son gave us a call, reached out, talked to him. His mom is, getting older, so he wants to move her in with him. And we went out there and come to find out, the mom is actually friends with my wife's uncle at a nursing home. They knew each other, so having great rapport with that, we was able to lock that deal up on site and got that under contract. And we're gonna actually flip that one too.
Oops, I think we lost Carlos for a second there.
Oh, we did?
Yeah, no, it's been exciting. We are, we're going to make some pretty good assignment fees, right? The land deal, we'll make a pretty good lick on that. The Cleveland house, we're going to do pretty well.
Sorry.
That's okay. You back? All right. Yeah, so, we've got some good assignment fees lined up on these that, I think 2 of them will close next week, and we'll make some pretty good money off of those. The 2 flip houses have some pretty good margins built in on them, but, that's going to take a little bit longer. And then the last one is, the Eastlake house, which we're gonna have to actually take it down first. And I think our primary exit strategy on that is going to be to try to wholesale it, but we'll either try to shop it to buyers or even list it on the MLS as a wholesale deal, right? And then with the backup strategy being that, hey, if there's no takers for a number we're comfortable with, we'll go ahead and proceed with the rehab and sell it, because it'll still come in at a price point, I think, below 250,000, which is about 100,000 below the median sales price in this market. So.
Got it. So I did lose you for a moment, and I didn't finish hearing the rest of the deals. So we're talking about how many deals, more or less?
There are, I think,
5.
5. Yeah.
Wow.
Yes, 5 total.
Yeah, we're gonna have 2 active flips going and 3 wholesale deals.
Wow. And that was my next thing. You guys are using basically wholesaling flips, and it's always fine. I mean, the wholesale is basically finding cash buyers, right?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So you guys seem to be doing a very amazing job. Working with those leads, right? Negotiating with those sellers. What can you guys say about the motivation level, and potentially also about what makes you different, guys? Because I know that the area you guys are targeting is highly competitive. So let's talk about the motivation of those deals and on those people, on those motivated sellers, and also the what makes you guys very competitive for to get those deals in that area.
Yeah, so on the motivation level of the sellers, I mean, it varies, but you've got some people that are dealing with, life changes, right? Then maybe it's a separation or a divorce or a death in the family. It could be having to take care of a family member, right? So they're needing to kind of free up cash. There's other reasons too. I mean, I think a lot of people also are just, as expensive as things have gotten. I think there's people or their house might need too much work. They don't want to work with an agent because they don't want to spend the money getting the house ready to put on the market and so forth. So there's, a lot of different reasons. The second part of that equation, with what separates us is that, there's other wholesalers out here, and to be clear, we're not looking to necessarily just be wholesalers, right? There's a mix of opportunity for us. My background's in construction. Jamal's background is in wholesaling, as well as other, kind of alternative investments and stuff. And so, we've combined those synergies together, or those strengths really. And so I can go and I can look at a house and I can be like, all right, this will be an easy flip if we want to just take it down and we can make X amount of dollars. Or, conversely, if there's something that we just don't want to really bother with on the rehab side of things, there's still opportunity because there's other investors that might be their niche. For instance, that land deal is it's got an old mobile home on it, right? A trailer basically. And trailer's not habitable, but we've got it under contract to sell to someone, cash buyer, who's gonna, I think, stick a newer mobile home on that and keep it as a rental. And his numbers will work really well for him. I'm sure he's making probably a return on investment close to 20% a year would be my guess. I don't really know for sure, but really, it's about coming up with strategies that are tailored to be a win for us as well as our buyers, right? And then at the end of the day, we have the ability to close a lot faster than probably your average wholesaler. Jamal is the one that talks with the leads and negotiates and everything else related. But at the end of the day, our ability to be able to pivot, use cash, private money, hard money, et cetera, and close quickly sets us apart, because a lot of the other people, these potential, these leads are talking to, they want 45 days due diligence, 60 days due diligence, or 90 days, as we found out on a recent one. And I'm like, man, we don't need, we can close in 30, right? And so we don't, and frankly, we can probably close in half that time. Sometimes we want to buy ourselves a little more time because it's, deal flow. You get tied up, you don't want to have too many balls in the air, or else you start dropping a few, right? So, but yeah, that's basically it.
That makes a lot of sense. And now that you mentioned that Jamal is the person talking to the leads, would you mind telling us a little bit about your sales process, Jamal?
About the sales process?
Sales process, yes, a little bit.
Yeah, I just I kind of start out with just finding common ground with them. Trying to get a little bit on their background, and just building rapport off of that. A lot of times in today's market with houses selling way more than what they were selling 5 years ago, a lot of people have this idea that their house is worth $1 million, and you just tell it to them nicely. I do get a lot of stories with homeowners about how certain investors come in and they just have attitudes, and it's like, take my offer and leave. And I tell people all the time, like, hey, if I'm not the best fit for you, at least you're gonna, I'll leave you with enough knowledge to make an educated decision on how to, go about, selling a house. A lot of times I ask people, is this your final, last resort to sell your house? Because of that, the last thing I would hate is for somebody to feel like we took advantage of them. We go through every aspect of what's going on, why they need the money, and try to look for other solutions. That way I don't, at the end of the day, you have your name, and I like to protect my name that I do good business with people. So I don't never want to get to the closing table and somebody feels like we took advantage of them. So it's really just actually sitting down and just taking the time to get to know them, finding some common ground. Usually is about kids and family and stuff like that. So yeah, one of the properties was a superhero.
You're on mute. Jamal,
You hit your
Jamal,
mute button.
you're inspired, but you're on mute. Oh,
What's that there?
you
There
were
it is.
talking
Can you hear me
about,
now?
There you go.
yeah, you were
Yeah,
talking about
I
the
had a
example of the kids. So can you resume from there? And you said one
yeah, I'm
example.
sorry. Let me switch to do not disturb. I've got a million people trying to call me now too.
Oh,
There we go. Do not disturb. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, so you know, the guy that passed away, his family, he had a bunch of Marvel and DC characters. He collected comic books and everything, and I'm a huge DC fan. So we built a lot of, you know, common ground off of that talk. We literally, when I go talk to houses, if I'm there for an hour, 45 minutes, we're talking about everything else, and we're only spending 15 minutes talking about the house. And that's
wow.
kind of the approach that I like to build, you know, just get to know people and see if you can help them out besides just, hey, here's my cash offer for the house.
Yeah. I mean, after all, they're selling their biggest asset many times, right?
Right.
That's amazing, man. I'm glad to hear your experience and how the motivation of these leads have been enough for you to even think about doing that, right? What would you say other investors sometimes come with an attitude, or what do you think those motivated sellers feel that they come with an attitude? Because I'm pretty sure those guys also are doing a huge effort to try to make a deal, but what do you think gets in the way?
Talking to sellers, a lot of times it be ego. A lot of times they come off as somebody trying to take advantage of them. You know, and I tell people all the time, like one of the properties we looked at, we got it for a certain number. It was less than what the owner was asking, but she had told us that somebody had offered her 20,000 for the house. And I straight up tell her, I was like, okay, well, how old is your roof? And you know, she told me the age of the roof. I was like, how old is your AC? And she told me the age of the AC. And then I said, what about your floors and your foundation? And I said, just that alone is already about a value of about $30,000 to $40,000 because that's something that I don't have to touch. And then we just go through the process. And I tell them, hey, it's going to cost me X amount to do this. And some, you know, depending on the case, I straight up tell them, hey, we can resell the house for this much, but I'm going to have to put this much in it. And when you show people the numbers, they kind of get a more realistic understanding of, okay, now I see why he's giving me the offer versus just somebody coming in, oh, well, I got $5,000 for you, take it or leave it. You know, and you'll be surprised. There are a lot of people who, after they call us, they say that either the investor before us or the investor after us literally came with that type of attitude.
Should. Okay, so many opportunities living on the table, and so many I mean, motivated sellers being underserved, basically. But that's an advantage for you guys.
Yes, yeah, because I mean, you know, there's a problem that they're having, and it's like, okay, is like I said, is this house, is you selling, are you selling your house going to be able to really solve that solution, or are there other avenues that we can explore? Because at the end of the day, if they find out they could have did something later on, they're going to regret the sale. And like I said, that comes back to then they'll start, you know, feeling like they were taken advantage of versus, hey, this is ultimately what we need to do. Okay, let's get it done. But this is the price that I can do it for.
Awesome. Awesome. This is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your experience, guys. Do you mind if I ask you real quick? I mean, you guys have quite a journey with Hesel Media. Everything hasn't always been perfect, but you guys have been persistent, and you guys have made your way to making it happen. You guys are seeing that for the last 3 to 4 months, right? And you got also guys have an amazing outlook of the near future. Even before we had the last time that we spoke, we talked about some tools that we're utilizing for you guys to maximize the existing leads, the specific plan for scaling even and getting more deals. You told me your goal, what your goals were, Brian and Jamal. So, but before, I mean, kind of like to try to understand what it took to come to this place, can you tell me a little bit more about where you guys were at before Hesel Media? Like,
Yeah.
Where were you at?
Yeah. Well, so I mean, I'll let Jamal share his his section, but my background's in general contracting. I've been building houses and remodeling houses pretty much my entire life. And I've been a real estate investor here in Chattanooga, Tennessee for about 15 years now. And I've been living out here for 12 of those years. And so I have always wanted to, flip houses. Wholesaling, if I'm being honest, wasn't necessarily a part of that strategy. But I also recognize that from an acquisitions standpoint that, finding houses to flip is, I mean, you're basically using wholesale tools, right? The same exact strategy, in other words. So I had over the years done, postcard and mailers and stuff like that. I had worked with other partners, et cetera. And my biggest weakness is time. I stay pretty busy. I got a lot of irons in the fire, so to speak, a lot of different real estate related ventures. And so, Jamal had reached out to me. He'd been doing, a lot of acquisition and disposition management over the last several years, with other people. And I think had kind of gotten away from that for a little bit to pursue it. And then, it was kind of random that, back in January, I think he hit me up on Facebook Messenger and was like, hey, man, if you know anybody looking for, somebody that does what I do, let me know. And it was like, well, the light bulb went off instantly for me. And I was like, yeah, how about me? And because I had signed up with Hesel I think I started the process with you guys in July or August, and we went live in in September of last year. And I just, I saw the leads, I saw the CRM. I really liked that it was all in one place. But I just I was doing a really bad job at following up with leads. And so Jamal, who just muted himself again right now, is we got to talking, and then it's been a really great partnership because his strengths complement my weaknesses. So yeah, and then I'll let he can take the podium now and share his part.
Yeah, it's the same. I had been wholesaling for a number of years with a certain other investor, and really, to keep that story short, because that's a long story, but it really wasn't feeling like I was getting better and moving up in the investing world. And we kind of took a break, focused on some other things, and I got back to just the roots of door knocking and word of mouth to find my leads, and it wasn't really working out the way that I was hoping. So I kind of got a little discouraged. And me and my wife Sade, we were talking one day, and I was like, it's funny because I met Brian years ago, and I always had this feeling like I need to be up under Brian and learn from him and stuff, but I went in a different direction. And then so back in January, me and my wife were talking, and I was like, look, she was, basically telling me like, yeah, real estate is your thing. We got to just, stay focused, because I was, ready to give up. And so I asked her, I was like, I wonder if, Brian would know somebody who needs somebody to do acquisitions, not even knowing what he had going on. And she, I told her, I said, you think I should, maybe send him a message and see what he says? And she was like, go for it. So literally we were in the car. I think she was driving that day. But I sent them a message, and like not even 5 minutes later, he called me and was like, you know, your timing is impeccable. And I was like, okay, well, this is going in a great direction. So yeah, I mean, you know, with the knowledge and wisdom that Brian has and the experience, like I'm happy to be working with him. You know, I feel like I bring a lot to the table. I feel there's a lot that I can learn from him. And it's just been clicking. It's been working. I'm excited to see, you know, how this summer goes. Definitely happy with, you know, the leads coming in, because that's been my biggest struggle, is having a consistent flow of leads. And it's like, okay, Brian has the consistent flow of leads. I have the time. Let's put this together, you know, and make this work.
And you guys are, I mean, you're with the combined skills, you guys are really basic. Basically, you guys are problem solvers, right? Really good problem solvers. Jeremy Miner says, you need to be a really good problem solver. You need to be first be a problem finder.
Well, there's like a couple of different ways you can look at that. If you're like, hey, problems come to me, I don't know, you know, how I necessarily feel about that. But at the end of the day, you know, I've been doing this long enough, and this is not rocket science. I mean, this is stuff that I think you just with persistency, you know, consistency and persistency, you know, anybody can be successful at, right? It may not happen overnight. And, you know, I think the hardest thing to do in this business is build momentum, right? And then you have to actually maintain it. And I think that's what frustrates a lot of people and keeps them from being successful, is because they have a false expectation that it's just gonna, you know, they're gonna spend some money and they're gonna do this, and boom, they're gonna get their first couple deals. And for some people that happens, and for others it takes longer than that, right? And so, I mean, even with Jamal and I, this go around, I mean, we'd been meeting, you know, once a week for close to a month before we even got our first deal, right? So it was like, hey, let's try this, or hey, let's do this. And then, you know, so far we haven't really had to employ a ton of different strategies, but the time will come where we will, where it's like, you know, you can do subject to, you know, it's having a tailored answer for just about every situation. We feel like we can help almost anybody in need and create a win-win situation for all parties.
That is amazing. I love the way you put it. It makes a lot of sense, and it's simple as that. I mean, yeah, thank you very much. One last question I think I have for you guys real quick, and it is, what would you guys tell to somebody being on the fence of starting with Hesel Media?
Well, I was on the fence, so I would say, you know, don't sit there and think about it for too long. You know, the real estate is about taking action, right? As I just said, it's a momentum business, and things shift. I think it depends on the investment one is willing to make in themselves in this. And I think, you know, again, to be successful, you have to be willing to commit and invest in yourself, whether that be financially or education. You know, it takes some money to some extent to do this. But, you know, for me, you guys are out there, you know, you've got proven systems and the technology and the lead follow up in terms of the, you know, the call center folks and everything else that we utilize. And I mean, we couldn't do it without you, frankly, because, you know, you're getting people, instead of us just sending out like it was the case, you know, 5-10 years, well, a little bit longer, but say 7 to 10 years ago, where postcards and mailers were the common way to reach out to sellers. And, you know, if you were getting a 3% response rate on that, you were doing pretty well back then, right? But you had no idea. That was just a blanket strategy. So this approach to me is so much better because you're putting it out there in a way where it attracts people that are looking to solve a problem to you, right? Mm-hmm. Instead of us just casting a really big net via the mail and hoping somebody's going to like follow up on something we sent them, right? Or then the same thing holds true with those skip trace leads, right? Where you just get cold called. I can't tell you how many of those calls been a little bit less this year, but years before that, I get so many phone calls from people that, and a lot of times it wasn't even the right person. They just saw, you know, I had a common address, so it pulled my name and contact information, however that stuff works. And so, you know, it's just a lot of dead and wasted time. And so this to me is much more targeted and much more effective.
Love that. Great response, man. Thank you so much for just coming up to us the way you feel it. And that is amazing. I really like this partnership because of that.
Yeah, no, so do we. We're enjoying it. And I mean, we look forward to doing even bigger and better things, you know, with it. And it's exciting.
Let's crush it. Definitely, we need to revamp this success case a few months along the line.
Yeah.
So excited to see what's going to happen for you guys. Jamal, you want to add anything else before we kind of like wrap up here?
Yeah, Brian said a lot, but what I was gonna say is, if you're on the fence about it, the deals is passing you up, while you sitting there waiting to make a decision. So why not try it and give it a shot? But you'll be very pleased with the results.
Love that. Hey guys, great stuff. Thank you so much, and we'll talk soon. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, no problem.